And the stupidity of that decision, allowing international lawyers of dubious provenance to determine the national interest of the United Kingdom, is a disaster for transatlantic relations.
Harry Cole of The Sun has spoken to Donald Trump, the American president, overnight. Trump made it very clear that he is frustrated with Keir Starmer, his lack of action, and has questioned the special relationship. Well, Andrew Neil is in charge of the Times at 1 today. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, good morning to you.
How concerned should we be about what Donald Trump has said to Harry Cole? I mean, it does sound like there is a bit of a fracture going on here.
Very concerned, I think. We should be very concerned about the state of US-UK relations now. I mean, a lot of what Mr. Trump had to say was basically reform talking points, reform UK talking points. I think we can see where the briefing is coming from on that, but it doesn't lessen the impact on our relations. I mean, I can't remember a time now when the UK-US relations have been worse than this. And it's been handled very badly by Britain, particularly by Keir Starmer. The relations are now hold below the waterline. Doesn't mean they're terminal. Could be put together again at some stage, but not quickly and not in the immediate future. All America wanted from us were the use of the bases. The use of the base in Britain and the use of Diego Garcia. And instead of agreeing to that, and there was no skin off our nose to do so, we have a prime minister who took more account of dubious international law to stop the Americans from doing this than the national interest, which was to allow America to use these bases. The United States did not want us to go to war with them. They don't need us. We're an irrelevance. The United States didn't even necessarily want us to come out and support, though Australia and Canada, two left-wing governments, centre-left governments, have come out and support. But it did want these bases, and we said no. And the stupidity, and of course, and then within 24 hours, what a surprise, we have another Starmer U-turn. And the stupidity of that decision, allowing international lawyers of dubious provenance to determine the national interest of the United Kingdom, is a disaster for transatlantic relations.
But might it be a decent political play for Keir Starmer in the sense that, you know, his voters, maybe a bulk of the country, feel deeply uneasy about going anywhere near a conflict like Iran?
I feel deeply uneasy about it too. I'm wary about it. I'm not sure what the end game is. I was always taught you don't get into a war until you can tell me what the end is going to be. So I'm wary about it, but that doesn't mean to say we shouldn't have allowed America to use these bases. As I say, we weren't asked to participate with America, partly because we've got nothing to offer anyway. We weren't even asked to stand shoulder to shoulder with America. We were just asked to use the bases, and we say no. Now, and to some extent, although it's reform talking points, the president is right. The defeat of Labour at the by-election in South Manchester last week by the Greens is now dragging Starmer and Labour to the left. It's not pandering to the Muslim vote, that's the president's words, but the Palestinian issue plays badly in Labour's core vote, including the Muslim core vote, and the Labour left flank has been opened up by the Greens, and they're now much more worried about the left flank atrophying than they are about the right flank to reform. That's kind of done and dusted now. And it is why every time Keir Starmer stands up, he begins with, we did not participate in this attack on Iran. Well, we know that. We weren't asked to. But he says that because he's now leaning left. And in a way, it doesn't really matter who leads the Labour Party or who the Labour Prime Minister is now. We are now going to see a government that moves to the left in a bid to shore up its left flank from the Greens, who I see are second in a YouGov poll this morning.
Yeah, quite something, that poll. Reform and the Greens topping it, and Labour and the Tories in third and fourth place. Andrew, we will be listening at 1 o'clock today. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That is Andrew Neil there. Stig really loves it when Andrew says bye-bye like that. So Andrew's fulfilling Stig's little dream.
I hope he
there.
overheard me say that yesterday. He's just doing it to be kind. Cause it's just bye-bye then, bye.
You can get more from The Sun's Harry Cole on Harry Cole Saves the West. You can find that on YouTube. And there is an article now in The Sun with that full interview with Donald Trump.
Times Radio presents Adam Boulton, who's seen an awful lot of special relationships over the years between the US and the UK. Joins us now. Adam, morning to you.
Good morning.
The special relationship has never been that special, probably, at least from America's view of the UK. Does this matter? Because the one thing I've been thinking this morning is Keir Starmer has spent the first 15 months of his time, or 16 months, or whatever it's been, saying the main foreign policy aim is to get close to Donald Trump. Does it matter if he's now shifting a bit away from him?
Well, I think the special relationship basically is to do with economic ties, cross-investment, and also cultural ties. And of course, we all speak the same language just about. Whether it's significant really at the level of prime ministers and presidents, I think is a very moot point. I mean, I've certainly, as listening to William Hague, I mean, I can remember Mrs. Thatcher being absolutely shocked when George Bush, after he was elected, George Bush Senior, chose to go to Germany and Brussels before he went to Britain. She practically had a sort of breakdown during a NATO summit over that. So it's a very sensitive matter, and being the best friend of the biggest boy on the block is always something that's appealed to British politicians. Yeah. And certainly I think that's where Starmer went. And I think, knowing how transactional and how really one way the current president, Donald Trump, is in all his relations, in a sense, it's no surprise that he's kicked the Prime Minister so hard over this question of not supporting the attack on Iran. I think that there are 2 points about the attack on Iran. The first is, in not being part of it and in not actively supporting it, there's no doubt about it that the Prime Minister has probably aligned Britain with where the majority of voters are.
Interesting.
So I don't think that will necessarily do much harm. Incidentally, currently the majority of voters in the United States as well.
Yeah.
But the question is whether he needed to put the kind of extra components of that, first of all, not allowing the Americans to use bases, which seems a very odd decision given that they are still our closest military ally. And the other thing is this very legalistic inability he has to say, unlike the Canadians and the Australians, although, we wouldn't have done it, we welcome the outcome in terms of the overthrow of the Ayatollahs. And I think that is probably the mistake he's making. And I think that's why, in speaking to Harry Cole, the Prime Minister was accused of dancing to the tune of the Muslim vote by the Prime Minister. And this, of course, is very much a theme which we've heard from, from J.D. Vance and from others about their worry about the eradication of what they regard as the culture of Europe, i.e. The white Christian culture.
And it's interesting that the Tories are majoring on that today. Kemi Badenoch did it a bit yesterday. And, the Gorton and Denton by-election, the use of the Greens, their videos in Urdu and Bengali. I just wonder whether, does this become this issue of sectarianism in British politics, but certainly cultural identity in British politics? Is that going to become even more prevalent than it was at the last election and the next election?
Yeah, I certainly think it's going to be a live issue. Although the interesting thing, of course, is that the Muslim world internationally is clearly split with Shia Iran on one side and Sunni-dominated Arab world certainly on the other. And as you were hearing earlier on, a fight almost seems to have been picked with them by Iran in the way it's retaliated. I think this whole question of cultural integration or whether we're a diverse society is clearly a very live one. I think the problem is that we've got now 2 parties offering very different approaches. We've got Reform UK, basically saying, yes, we need to defend traditional British culture. And on the other side, we've got the Greens making common cause with immigration and, some quite extreme aspects of Islamism in this country. And the problem is, as that opinion poll shows today, that people are polarizing around that.
Yeah.
And if you like, the two traditional, more centrist parties, Conservative and Labour, are reacting, seeing their votes go away, by also polarizing in those opposite directions. Whereas it could be argued that what they actually should be doing is making a more moderate case for dealing with these issues.
Yeah, very good point. Rachel Reeves today, spring statement. The story around oil and possible inflation is going to cast a shadow over it, but presumably she'll use it as an opportunity to say whatever is coming down the pike, the economy is broadly stable, and that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, I think they wanted to go a bit further than that and hope that the OBR for the first time would say that actually things are going in the right direction, that inflation is coming down, that growth, maybe while pretty anemic, is going to edge up a bit on predictions. And also, interestingly, they were looking at this prediction on net immigration and the fact that that might be coming down quite dramatically, which, goes back to our previous conversation. As you say, the problem is that all this work has been done, but now a war which is clearly impacting on both petroleum and natural gas supplies, on which we depend, is undoubtedly going to knock these calculations out of the window. Frankly, I suspect that Rachel Reeves' appearance today may turn out to be a bit of a non-event. We should say Parliament also is going to get the opportunity to talk about the current situation in the Middle East today, because there's going to be, before that, Yvette Cooper will be up for Foreign Office questions, and I'm sure these issues will be raised then.
Good point there. We'll keep an eye on what she says, if anything advances over the next couple of hours. Great to speak to you as ever, Adam. Thanks so much. That's Adam Boulton there, the Times Radio presenter on a Sunday morning.